Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Sahuarita Unified School District Governing Board meeting for June 23rd. The Sahuarita board members and district administration are meeting at the district auditorium. There will also be accommodations for up to 25 community members to attend the meeting. The meeting will be live streamed by use of YouTube, which allows for members of the public to view and or listen to the meeting virtually. If you need accommodations, please contact Betsy Palacio at email bpalacio@sahuarita.net. A link has been provided for any call to public comments. 20 minutes will be allowed for reading of online and in-person comments at the meeting. Any comments not read during the agenda item will still be entered into the public record. We will adhere to all board meeting procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording and or draft copy of the minutes from this meeting will be available to the public. We apologize in advance for any unforeseen difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. If you'll please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll get started with roll call. Ms. Palacio.
Governing Board President Kevin Opalka.
Here.
Governing Board Clerk Denise Reese, absent. Governing Board Member Sherry Lowe, absent. Governing Board Member Dr. John Sparks.
Here.
Governing Board Member Nicole Warner.
Here.
District Administration Superintendent Dr. Manuel Valenzuela.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Scott Downs, absent. Assistant Superintendent Brett Bonner.
Here.
Chief Financial Officer Lisette Hughes.
Here.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Opalka, members of the board, I recommend approval of the revised agenda as it was presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Opalka, members of the board, in your packet you have draft copies of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the board back on June 9th, 2021. And after your review and consideration, I do recommend approval at this time.
Thank you. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to ratification of the vouchers. Lisette.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start with the voucher ratification, I just wanted to let you know that that tonight's approval and ratifications that I'm making is that one is to give authorization to close out the old fiscal year, and then also to begin our new fiscal year expenditures, and that's why you see a large amount in there. But again, I just also want to reiterate that the way that we do approvals and ratifications, that the way that they work is that we ask for pre-approvals not to exceed, so that we can go ahead and pay for items in the current payroll for that current pay period, and also for our weekly vouchers. But then we bring them back for final ratification so that you know what the exact number of what was spent, but never to exceed the total amount of our budget. So I just wanted to clarify that before we begin. So before the first item is our payroll voucher ratification, ratification 24 and ratification 24.1, totaling $3,017,306.06. New payroll for approval, payroll 29 through payroll 2002, totaling new payroll vouchers 18 million for a total payroll approval of $21,017,306.06. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 2171 through 2174, totaling $982,802.68. Additionally, new expense vouchers 2179 through, there's a long list there, and again, I just want to reiterate that that is for both closure of this fiscal year and then also the new fiscal year, and that's totaling the new expense voucher recommendation of $72 million for a grand total of $94,108.74.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We'll move on to the superintendent reports. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Opalka, members of the board and public. Just a few items to highlight this evening. This week marks the conclusion of our summer programs, our summer school programs, both elementary and high school. We've been fortunate to serve over 400 students this session in our summer program. It's gone remarkably well. Thank you to Mr. Bonner and the entire team for a smooth operation. I'm also pleased to share preliminary registration data, which of course we're watching very carefully. And we look at kindergarten because of course these are our new students. It's a blank slate. There's many factors involved in these enrollment numbers, but when you look at this point in time, at this year compared to the same point in time last year, the number of registrants in kindergarten are up by almost 20%. So, and again, it's in line with some of the data that I've seen across the country, that, you know, the kindergarten issues is how they were impacted by the pandemic. And so that's encouraging news in terms of our recovery prospects and looking forward to the future of the new year. It's a good message of hope and optimism, I would say. I'd also like to express to the board and public that within the next several days, we'll be putting out a couple of different documents. One is a survey related to the American Rescue Plan Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, a survey for feedback about considerations and priorities going forward based on allowable uses of those funds. These are the federal funds that were recently approved. And also, as we prepare our Return to Safe Learning Plan, the modifications that we're tackling in terms of opening the new school year and some of the things we've already initiated, like the mask optional, which happened at the last meeting. So those will be posted, and there will be opportunities and appreciation and welcome for feedback from the community, from parents and the public. And with that, I think that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to governing board reports. Dr. Sparks.
The only thing I've got to say is I'm pretty grateful for a little bit of rain last night and the rain we're getting this evening. So I'm super excited to see it raining again in the desert. But that's all I have for the night. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warner.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't have anything to add either tonight. We will move on to the call to public. Just a reminder for the call to public, consideration and discussion of comments and concern from the public. Those wishing to address the governing board on items not on tonight's agenda may do so at this time or at the board's discretion at the time the items appear on the agenda. Speakers are requested to hold their comments to 2 minutes or less. 20 minutes will be allowed for both online and in-person comments. In accordance with the Arizona Open Meeting Law, board members may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on the agenda. Any comments not read during the agenda item will still be entered into the public record. First up, I have Lou Sampson.
Good evening. My name's Lou Sampson. And last meeting, after Brittany spoke about her fourth grader and what her fourth grader was learning in school, I got to thinking, you know, when I was in the fourth grade, of course I'm old, you know, I'm 73 years old. So we didn't have computers. My fourth grade teacher, Mr. Starr, taught multiplication, and he made his own multiplication tables, 3 columns, 2 through 12. Every day we wrote. He would time us on that. Every day we learned and guess what? I know my multiplication tables today. So that's the difference. She showed me what her daughter was learning in the fourth grade, and I was just astounded. So I started looking online, and I found out that in 2008, national sex education standards were set for schools, which just amazed me. And then I got looking, and it's good there's no children here, because I wouldn't want to say this in front of kids, because if I was a teacher, there's no way I would be saying this. that the latest edition of the National Sex Education Standards calls for students starting in 6th grade to define the meaning of oral and anal sex and dental dams, and for students starting in 3rd grade to explain concepts like masturbation. Now, I think that maybe, just maybe, this goes outside of age appropriateness, and that public school setting outside of anatomy, physiology, and basic sex education, this is outrageous. And I got looking. The United States, out of 77
That's your
countries,
time.
is 25th in the world. Isn't it amazing? I'll bet y'all our kids know about sex, but they don't know math and reading. Arizona is 3rd from the bottom in standing in education in our country. And then I got looking on the Sahuarita AZ merit test
That's your time,
site,
ma'am.
and reading 19% proficiency, and math 22% sufficiency. Now that's the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. Maybe we just need to go back to reading and writing and math instead of all this sexual education and all this peripheral social emotional learning and critical
Your
race
time's up,
theory and
ma'am.
Common Core. Thank you
Thank you very much. Next, I have Irene Peeble.
Good evening. My name is Irene Peeble. I have grandkids in the school district. I've just moved here, and after I filled this out, I realized you can't answer my question. I wanted to know how I go about looking at curriculum or textbooks. Do I go to the individual school? Do I go to the individual school to look at the curriculum and textbook used there? Or is the same thing used throughout the whole district? Or do I have to get it from the board? And I realize you can't answer my question. I don't know if you can just tell me who I would talk to, if you can give me that name, or if you have a piece of paper that you can hand to me. Oh, hi. Do I come over there? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all we have tonight for the call to public. So we'll move on to new business, FY 2022 proposed budget. Dr. Valenzuela?
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Opalka, members of the board. Each year, every public school district in the state of Arizona is required to prepare a proposed budget prior to, I believe, July the 5th. Just a couple of comments. First of all, the Arizona legislature is still in session. This is one of the longer sessions that I recall in my rather lengthy tenure as a public school educator in the state. So there's a lot of uncertainty there, but we move forward in good faith. And before I turn the microphone over to my colleague, Mrs. Huey, just a couple of comments. We've budgeted based on zero growth. There's still a lot of fluctuation, a lot of uncertainty, and so we're taking that very conservatively. We, as you will see from Mrs. Huey, the only increases that are incorporated are those that are clearly allowable by the state, such as a requirement for the inclusion of an inflation, a base inflation factor. Other items you'll notice, such as capital or district additional assistance and our local override, went down, and that's because we had to use prior year, and as we know, prior year enrollment went down in the midst of the whole pandemic. And like a lot of things these days, still a lot of flexibility and uncertainty, and we will be ready to go forward and change after the approval of the final budget as needed. So with that, I turn it over to Ms. Huey for a summary of the proposed budget before I make the recommendation.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela. Good evening, President Opalka, members of the board, district administration, and community. Tonight, like Dr. Valenzuela mentioned, before you is your proposed fiscal 22 budget. And again, like Dr. Valenzuela mentioned, is that the state budget has yet to be approved. And in order to meet the statutory requirement, I am requesting a recommendation of the proposed budget, and we're using the best information we currently have available to us. Therefore, it is likely that I will bring back a revised budget at some point in time, just to reflect what's currently happening with our budget during the fiscal year. And we'll go ahead and get started. So up on the screen is our comparison, and basically the way that I structure this is just comparing to where we left off in with the May revision of fiscal 21, and compared it to what it's going to look like for the proposed budget for the next fiscal year. And like Dr. Valenzuela mentioned, the estimates are on a flat growth, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that the same, and with a conservative approach. So with our base revenue control limit, when I compare it to what we ended with last year, we can increase it from last year, and again, that's because, like Dr. Valenzuela mentioned, that's based on the inflation factor. And the next item is our transportation revenue control limit. This is still in discussion with the legislature. This is an item that they're looking at right now. And it's unclear as to what fiscal year numbers are going to be using, if they're going to use prior years, which would be, in this circumstance, it would be fiscal year 19 miles and student ridership, or if they're going to use our prior year numbers. So because last year they used our 2019 numbers, I went ahead and just remained that flat with the same estimate. So that brings our revenue control limit to $34,115,750.73, which is an increase to where we ended last year of $2,393,409.53. The next items are adjustments that we can add to our maintenance and operation. And again, this is due to our support of our community in regards to the maintenance and operation override. We are allowed to have the voters approved a 14% override to our M&O budget. And the fortunate and unfortunate is that we are on current year funding, but the override is based on prior year ADM, which is our average daily membership. So we will see a decrease in that amount of $408,923. And then we do also receive tuition from Continental. So the Continental students go to our high schools, and I'm estimating that also as a flat enrollment. I just looked at their history and kind of trying to see where they ended the year, where our incoming freshmen are going to be, and the numbers seem to remain flat. So I went ahead and estimated it at no difference from last year. Additionally, the only other adjustments, I think my mic's gone. Anyone here? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me okay? I'll try to speak a little louder. It's completely off. Do you need me to do anything? Sorry, I'll go ahead and pause if that's okay, just so to make sure everybody can hear me.
Yep. I'm gonna try it again. Is that?
Test, 1, 2, 3.
It's not on the overhead.
It's okay?
Try it again.
Test, 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Amber. So I'll go ahead and continue. The other adjustments is basically we moved $650,000 from our district additional assistance to our M&O, and I'll continue that process for the upcoming fiscal year. Additionally, we were able to add Prop 123 adjustment. Again, that's also based on prior year ADM, so there is a decrease of $14,543. Also, our energy and water savings, our payment is a little higher the second year, and that was done purposeful. So we will see an increase to that expense, which means that we basically take that off the top of $283,718 for a total M&O allocation of $40,359,442.73, which is an increase of $1,686,225.53. What we can also include is any carry forward from prior year. So currently, as I discussed earlier in our ratification, we are not done paying our bills until August, so we still have some time to pay our old year bills. So I want to make sure that I have enough of that, and then also conservatively project what we're going to have for our carry year for prior year of $2.5 million, which is a decrease on what we received last year from carry forward. And again, that's just due to the pandemic and the situation that we were in last year. So the good thing is that we had a healthy carry forward in the prior year, and we look like we are still going to continue having a healthy carry forward, just not as large as we did in the prior year. So the total recommendation for the maintenance and operation budget limit is $42,859,442.73. Are there any questions from the board in regards to maintenance and operation?
The base revenue control limit is based on is it based on the number our prior year, or is it based on the number we know to be registered to date?
So because I'm projecting a flat enrollment, so I'm using the same numbers as we ended last year in May.
So you're using the May numbers with only the inflation. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
That is correct.
So that proposed revenue, the budget increase is purely inflational that we are allowed to take under state law.
That is correct.
No students, we're using the flat number that we ended at May, and anybody that comes back extra will be an additional growth to the budget.
Correct, and then at that point, we're allowed to revise our budget to include that additional growth.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'll go ahead and move on to the district additional assistance, which is referred to as DAA, and most people know it as capital. And if we look at our DAA revenue control limit, the revenue control limit proposed for next year's budget is $2,626,304.52, which is a decrease. Again, that is because the allocation for district additional assistance is based on prior year allocation. So the decrease is $290,756.93. The good news is that in the past, I've always had to the state always had a reduction to our capital, and they have restored district additional assistance to its full funding figures that we had before they started reducing the budget. And so that's why we can see an increase of $468,998.20. Our tuition revenue, again, because Continental students go to attend our high schools, we have, I'm also estimating this amount to also be a flat enrollment for Continental, and their part of their tuition pays our district additional assistance, so I don't project any addition or subtraction at this time. Also, our capital outlay override remains to be $1 million, and again, I'm very grateful, and I know I say that for many, the district administration and myself and our governing board. I'm very grateful for the support of our community in regards to our capital outlay override. It has allowed our district to provide additional resources to our students, and that is $1 million, and there's no change there. The next item is I'm just showing the decrease from our DAA to our M&O like I showed above, and that has no change. Also, I don't show any other adjustments, and I'm going to assume that the interest rate from prior year of a whopping $19 will remain the same. The total district additional assistant allocation without carry forward, I'm proposing $3,057,330.52, which is an increase of $178,241.27. Our carry forward, I'm estimating almost the same as we had prior year. Again, until all of the dust settles and all of the payments are made for this fiscal year, then I can bring forth during the revised budget, hopefully even by next May, that we will have a little bit more if that allows. And so right now I'm projecting that at $1,168,389 for a grand total of $4,225,719.52, which is an increase from prior year of $57,330.52. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the budget and the proposed budget at this time.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Therefore, at this time, President Opalka, members of the board, I would recommend approval of the proposed budget for fiscal year 22 as it was presented, and also approval of the required public notification about a July 14th presentation and possible action on the budget at that time.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the Arizona School Alliance for Workers' Compensation Contract Renewal.
Yes, sir, President Opalka, members of the board, this is our agreement with our workers' compensation carrier. I am pleased to share that through successful management of this part of our operations, we've secured a contract that is a 7% reduction in the fees from about $271,000 in the past year to a proposed $253,000 approximately for the next year. And I would recommend your approval of the workers' compensation contract at this time.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Just want to clarify, was our 7% reduction due to a lower rate of injury across the district, or was that a statewide kind of reduction overall? I mean, I'm assuming a lot less injuries statewide just because of the lack
Was that?
of on-site. Is that why? I mean, our injury number was considerably lower, I'm assuming.
That is correct, and because we're part of the Arizona Risk Retention Pool, that's why we're seeing the overall decrease. Now, it will differ from school districts still. We maintained our own level pretty much the same as last year, so this is a reflection of the overall, correct?
And our number's pretty low usually, which
Yes.
is good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to item 8C, Arizona School Risk Retention Trust Renewal.
Yes, sir, President Opalka, members of the board. Again, the Arizona School Risk Retention Trust, or the Trust, as it's affectionately known, is our liability insurance carrier. Once again, the proposed contract renewal is for an amount less than last year. In this case, very slightly less, but we'll take every dollar. Dollar saved is a dollar earned. And I think we're down by 0.18%. The contract amount is for approximately $664,000, and I would recommend your approval of the Arizona School Risk Retention Trust for fiscal year 21-22 at this time.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to make sure, I'm assuming also we're rated annually for our injury rate and liability costs to the trust. And is this that, or is there another reason this went down this year? I'm glad it went down. I mean, I don't think most people realize as a school district, there isn't just some magic pie in the sky. The state pays for this stuff. That we have to carry our own liability policies, we have to carry our own insurance, we pay our own workman's compensation. So can you just help, just clarify why the reduction took place this year?
Sure. So again, it's overall, we're a part of the pool, so overall, the state as a whole, we didn't experience a whole lot of liability claims. Granted, most of us were closed during that time frame, during the pandemic, so that has something to do with it. But then also, there is an opportunity through their, what we do all the time through their TLC credit is what it's called, their trust loyalty credit. There's also opportunities for us to do extra projects internally so that we can lower our rates, and that might be a possibility in the future, but for right now, the reason this rate is lower than last year is for that same reason, because there's less liability that occurred during the last, and that still holds true for our districts specifically as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of the sole source procurement
Yes, sir. President Apalco, members of the board, thank you. Under Arizona statutes, we're allowed to compile a list of product and service providers that meet very stringent criteria to be deemed sole source providers. And you have in your packet a list of those vendors that have met the criteria to be deemed sole source for the fiscal year 21-22. And after your review and consideration of that list, I do recommend your approval of the sole source procurement list for the next fiscal year 21-22 at this time.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. And we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Yes, sir, President Apalco, members of the board, you have in your packets the consent agenda, which is a list of routine board matters that may be considered and acted upon in one comprehensive motion. And at this time, I do recommend your approval of the entire consent agenda as it is presented at this time.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So, second.
A motion and second. Do I have any discussion? I always like to take the opportunity when I see them to say thank you to those who have donated items or financially to the district. Those gifts are much appreciated. So thank you to the community again for the continuing support. With that, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. We will establish the next board meeting, which will be July 14th here in the district auditorium. Do I have a motion for recess?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.